Okay. Sadashiva Samarambam Karasharya Madhyamam Asmadasharya Paryandam Vande Guru Param Ishvaro Gurati Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtiya Namaha Rava Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satiguru Pranatosh Maham Om Shanti 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 Om. We have been covering the last few topics in Tattva Bodha. So I will recap a little bit the last few things we covered last class. Isvara is we are finishing the topic about Isvara. We have done the Jiva. So Isvara is the self in association with Maya. So we heard that several times. In association with Maya, produce something that we call Isvara. It's a very, very subtle topic, this topic, Maya Isvara. And also the way the self came about associate with anything, especially considering that the self is one without a second. The self is non-dual. There is only the self, but yet apparently the self associates with some other factor and it produces Isvara. This factor is called Maya, and Isvara is said to be the self in association with Maya. So, in other words, we often say that Isvara, the self in association with Sattva Guna, because Sattva is contained all the knowledge, all the intelligence that brings forth the universe as we know. So Maya contains all the knowledge and power needed to create. That knowledge and power is useless without consciousness. We know that consciousness is the only factor which is free, independent, and independent of all other factors in existence. And yet all other factors have their existence on the self alone, on consciousness alone. So everything depends on consciousness, and consciousness, that which we are, by the way, in our fundamental nature, this consciousness is the only independent, free factor, okay? But apparently, just like in a magic show, something called Maya comes into place, and then Isvara is. So that's the point. Most of the time, Maya and Isvara are used as synonymous. So in most of the texts, they use these two words almost like the same thing, Maya Isvara, Maya Isvara. But in some from other angles or perspectives, the scriptures make a distinction between Maya and the funny thing is that sometimes we will that Maya controls Isvara. In some other statements of the scriptures will say the Isvara controls Maya. So we need to look into the nuance of those statements to understand this subtle difference, because although Maya Isvara is about the same, often we put Maya, I like to put Maya / Isvara, and that indicating the fact that Maya somehow comes first, Isvara comes second. Why? Because Maya is the macrocosmic mirror-like apparatus, okay, on which Isvara shines. What is this noise? It's your telephone, Jose?
No.
Okay.
I beg your pardon?
No, then we're gonna live with this little noise from time to time today. No problem.
Okay.
So we have Maya and we have Ishvara. So Maya is this reflector. I mean, we know that the subtle body of all jivas are sentient beings, sentient objects, in the universe. So these living creatures, they have a subtle body, and this subtle body, they work as reflectors. Reflectors of what? It reflects pure, limitless, non-dual consciousness. So this pure, limitless, non-dual consciousness, somehow it shines when it pervades the subtle body. It shines and it creates living creatures, living beings. It creates sentience. Okay. So likewise, the first and most fundamental duality there is consciousness and Maya. And Maya somehow pervades consciousness and Maya. And consciousness somehow pervades Maya. And as it pervades Maya as well works as a reflector mirror. This reflecting apparatus reflects the first aspect of duality into existence. Actually, the first duality, the most primordial duality there is the self and Maya. So let's look a little bit into what is this Maya, because how can the self non-dual if there is something like Maya, something that is not really completely associated or is not a part of consciousness, because consciousness is partless. So it's not a part of consciousness, but it's not altogether something not associated with consciousness. So in the scriptures, the best metaphor or analogy to explain this phenomenon called Maya, that is in most of the texts, after digging, especially in the Brahma Sutras, trying to dig into the understanding of how Maya came into place and what is Maya. And then often in the end, it comes to say Maya is said to be inexplicable. Is inexplicable. Can you help me with this word now? That's not
inexplicable.
Maya is inexplicable by logic. So the human intellect is not able to explain Maya, because the Isvara and the Jivas are an effect of Maya. And when we understand that Maya, there is such a thing as Maya, because nothing comes into existence without a cause. There is nothing that comes into existence without a cause. So every living being being born, it's a proof there was thousands of years back, there was a grand father, thousands of years back. So this living creature being born now can be connected to his tree. Yeah, I forgot the name. I have something with my throat as well today. Genealogic tree. So people who like to go into this subject, they dig into the past to get to see the lineage of their families. So anything that exists now has a cause somewhere, and the universe exists. Therefore, we know that there is a cause, and this cause is said to be Maya. Okay, and this cause cannot be explained. Not even the scriptures have a clear explanation for Maya, but we understand that it exists because of its effect. The effect is the universe. Okay, and we know that Maya exists as well by the means of the scripture. We from Vedanta, Vedantic people or people who believe in the Vedas, over time, we developed a trust in the statements, a trust in these declarations and teachings of the scriptures, and we take it as a scripture revealed or teachings revealed directly from Isvara, direct from consciousness through Isvara. So we take it, out of faith. It's not a blind faith, a faith based on our understanding of our investigation, of our contemplation and study of the scripture. We say, wow, it is something that certain things, even if the scripture says cannot be explained, I still believe because the scripture is saying so. The scripture says that there is Maya, and Maya works such as a huge mirror reflecting consciousness. So the best explanation to explain Maya is the example or analogy of a human being with a certain talent. Often we say the Maya is a power that is inherent to consciousness, but at the same time, it's not consciousness. It has a certain connection to consciousness, but it's not consciousness. How so? And then the scriptures or some of our teachers from the lineage come up with this analogy that a human being may have a talent. We have talents. Some of us have talents, and these talents can be manifest. And if I have a talent, for example, to become a painter, that talent may manifest, may not manifest. So the individual is completely free from that talent. Okay, the talent is connected to the individual, but maybe or maybe not engaged, maybe or maybe not manifest as creation. In that case, beautiful artistic work, And just like an artist is not separate from its talent, okay? But it is unaffected by its talent. Okay, so we are not dependent. We are not separate from the talent, but this talent or this power to become an artist in that case we are not really affected by this talent. This talent that I have. Oh, I could have been a painter. I could have been an artist. And it does not affect that what I am. I am an individual and so on, and I have this talent. I may have more than one talent. So the same way, just like an artist is not separate but unaffected by his talents, Isvara is not separate from but unaffected by Maya. Okay, Maya is also defined as the three energies, the three qualities, the three gunas. Okay, Maya is a mirror composed by the three energies. So that is the fundamental composition of okay. So then what is, in that case, what is Isvara? So Isvara is Maya, is consciousness in association with a certain aspect of Maya, which is highly conditioned by Sattva Guna. So those of us who have been around Vedanta since some time, we probably heard or read somewhere that Maya is Isvara is consciousness plus Sattva Guna. Or sometimes we hear the statement that says Isvara is pure Sattva. Okay, so what is Isvara is pure Sattva? It means that consciousness, once it shines in Maya, Maya is composed by the three energies, okay? But once it shines in the aspect of Maya, which is predominantly sattvic, okay, it produces Isvara. Once it shines, or it pervades and shines, it reflects on the aspect of Maya that is rajasic, it produces the Jivas. And once consciousness shines and reflects in the aspect of Maya, which is conditioned by Tamoguna, it produces the physical material world. So this is the idea on how Isvara comes into place. And when we look into the creation, it begins always from the knowledge, from the intelligence, out of which the energy and the raw material needed for creation comes into place. So sometimes we say that Ishvara is referred to as the self in association with Sattva alone. That's what I just said. The idea being that Ishvara is the total knowledge and, the know-how, the skill required to create. And the Rajas and Tamas are the two powers it wields, similar to the way an artist wields its ability. Okay? So this is the idea. So why make this distinction? Ishvara is not separate from, but unaffected by Rajas and Tamas. Why to make this distinction? Because Rajas projects and Tamas conceals. They are responsible for self-ignorance and all its effects. So when we talk in terms of Rajas and Tamas producing ignorance, and many times we also heard this expression that Maya is also called ignorance. Yeah? So we know this expression that was brought forth by Ramji, that says that Maya is the beautiful intelligence ignorance. You know, it's beautiful and intelligent ignorance. So why we call Maya ignorance? So it's such a power, and it creates, you know, this wonderful cosmos, this wonderful universe. Why we call it ignorance? So we call it ignorance because it makes that which is non-dual appear as duality. It makes the self, which is just pure limitless existence consciousness, appear as the duality, the fundamental duality, subject and object, meaning to say, you know, this duality of the living creatures experience their environment, the objects in their environment. So this power of Maya is often called ignorance because it produces this, it projects a reality the same way certain physical phenomena produce the mirage in the desert, for example. Okay, so it's a beautiful mirage, this universe, but yet it is just a projection. It's to believe in that is ignorance. So this ignorance is much related to the jivas. One of the three factors of creation. The creation involves Ishvara, this knowledge, power, yeah? This principle, Sattva, that through Rajas and Tamas produce the universe. This universe is composed by the living creatures and the inert objects. So the Jivas are the living creatures. And these living creatures, they are born believing that the reality is this physical material universe, that all there is me and my environment and the object, and the whole condition of this intelligent jivas called as humans, okay, is trapped in this fundamental ignorance produced by Maya. So this ignorance produced by Maya has given Maya this nickname of ignorance. But as we can see, Ishvara, being Maya in its predominance of pure sattva, is highly intelligent. So that's why we say Maya Ishvara is this intelligent, ignorant, beautiful, wonderful, wandering principle. Okay, because it causes ignorance. It makes non-duality appear as duality, but at the same time, it designs this projection, designs this universe out of pure intelligence, pure knowledge. Therefore, the sattva that is building into this creation is what symbolizes Ishvara. Ishvara, pure sattva, pure intelligence, pure knowledge. Okay, so therefore we say Maya Ishvara is intelligent, but it's ignorant, and it is beautiful. It's complex. It's a wonder. Huh? All these qualities that we often associate to Maya. It projects and it conceals. That's that's one of the factors of Maya, Rajas and Tamas. Since self-ignorance holds sway over jivas and not Ishvara, this distinction needs to be made to show that Ishvara is neither self-ignorant not responsible for the negative behavior that stems from self-ignorance. So in other words, we say that Ishvara is pure knowledge. Ishvara is sattva. Okay? But in order to Ishvara to manipulate, to play with the three gunas. By the way, we often say that Maya controls Ishvara, but from a different angle, we say that Ishvara controls Maya. When we say that Ishvara controls Maya, although Ishvara is a byproduct of Maya, once Ishvara comes into place, it has the power, the intelligence, and the knowledge to manipulate the three energies, and to create the universe. Okay? Therefore, we say that Ishvara also controls the three energies. Therefore, Ishvara controls Maya, Ishvara being this knowledge aspect of Maya itself. So Ishvara is a conscious being. Why? That's another point that I was almost missing to unfold. Ishvara is a living, conscious, self-conscious being, okay? So jivas are living beings and we are self-conscious. We know that all consciousness we have, all consciousness Ishvara has been borrowed from consciousness itself, from the self. But the self lends its existence, consciousness to Ishvara and to the jivas, okay? So likewise, like the jivas, Ishvara is this living, self-conscious being made out of pure knowledge, pure sattva, okay? So it's a living, self-conscious being. And how about Maya, okay? Maya is just a reflector. Maya is absolutely matter, is the finest and the most subtle aspect of matter energy. But Maya is just matter. It's not a self-conscious creature. It's the mirror that can reflect consciousness to produce Ishvara, Jiva, and Jagat. Okay? So in analogy, the Jivas, they have three bodies, like the universe has three bodies, okay? The causal, the subtle, and the physical manifest universe, or the physical manifest body of the Jiva. So the Jiva having three bodies, and we know that the causal, the subtle body works like a mirror. So we say that the subtle body of the Jiva is inert matter. So the Jiva is not its subtle body. The subtle body is inert matter. Okay, it's energy. It's very subtle. Its composition is highly conditioned or highly influenced by sattva. Okay, we have a lot of sattva in the subtle body in its composition. Okay, but it is just matter that produce this apparatus that we call the reflector, the Jiva reflector, the reflector for the Jiva. So what is Jiva? Jiva is consciousness reflect on its causal body. There is a causal body. The causal body is inert matter. Okay? So the Jiva is not the subtle body. I'm sorry. The Jiva is not the subtle body. The Jiva is not the three bodies. Okay. The truth is that the Jiva is consciousness reflecting the subtle body. Jiva is a reflection of consciousness on the subtle body. Okay. So Jiva, we can say that we are conscious. What do we have common with consciousness? We have common with consciousness our consciousness, because what is the difference between reflecting ray of light and the original ray of light? Before it bounces on a mirror-like reflector, before it bounces, we have light rays. After it bounces, we have light rays. So Jiva is the light ray, is the consciousness. Once it bounces, it reflected and bounces, it produces Jiva. Jiva are living creatures, okay? But the subtle body of the Jiva is just inert matter. So the same way Ishvara is this living, it's a living conscious being. which is all knowing. It knows everything. We Jivas, we know very little. Ishvara knows everything, omniscient, omnipresent. So those, just to make a parallel between these two aspects of consciousness reflecting to Maya in the sattvic aspect of Maya. In Sanskrit we say Sattva Pradhana Prakriti. So Maya, Ishvara is consciousness reflecting in Sattva Pradhana Prakriti. It's Prakriti is energy, it's Maya. So in respect to sattvic of this Maya, we have this reflection called Ishvara. So Ishvara, being a living conscious being, it has a power to manipulate and to manage the three energies and project the world into manifestation. Okay. So Ishvara is not self-ignorant, but Ishvara is not responsible for the stupidity or the negative behavior or adamic behavior that we see in the world of human beings or human jivas. What it means to say. So we are trying to say that that Ishvara is pure knowledge, pure intelligence that provides the universe, provides the jivas, okay, and develops intelligence in the jivas, the ability to discriminate and choose on how to interact with the field, as opposed to the other animals that have no choice on how to respond to the stimulus coming from the field, because the other animals are just programs. They just respond mechanically, automatically to whatsoever life brings in front of them. So we were given this intelligence, this free will, this ability to choose. So that's the play. Okay, Ishvara produced that out of pure intelligent knowledge. And the play here is there is a field, there are these intelligent jivas with an ability to choose. And the moment we have this ability to choose, we are caught up into actions and results of actions and karma. Okay? So we are the only jivas with the ability to discover our true nature, which is the nature of all other animals, which is the nature of all mountains and rivers. But yet, we have this situation that we are the only living jivas having to deal with actions and its results, and owning the actions and dealing with guilt and the sense of ownership and doership and karma. So we are the only ones. So Ishvara is not responsible for our bad decisions. It's not responsible for our, overindulgence with rajas and tamas. Ishvara just creates the place and says, you know what? I'm going to create some jivas here that are going to be responsible for their acts. I'm managing the entire universe. I'm making all the jivas acting according to my programs. Okay? I make them work exactly like I do, like puppets in the string. But I will create these other creatures with an ability to interact with the field and with me, and not necessarily respond mechanically, compulsively, okay, but respond intelligently. And that is this intelligence is only possible by the means of this reflection on the subtle body of these creatures. And this subtle body, unfortunately, in order to be constituted, they have to have some inclusions of rajas and tamas. It's unavoidable. This is a wonder for me. I mean, why we cannot create living creatures with more sattva, so that we can live more intelligent and more dharmically, instead of living so stupidly, destroying the environment and so on. Why we have so much rajas and tamas? And it seems to be building in these human beings, I mean, maybe we without that much rajas and tamas, this reflector is not possible, this subtle body is not possible. If it's too much sattva, maybe it does not hold itself together. Who knows? But this is a good question. I know why we have to have so much rajas and tamas in our subtle body, because it produces a kind of a distorted or not clear reflection of our true nature. Are you guys following? This is a very subtle conversation.
Yeah.
So Isvara then is free. Isvara is free from all these problems that we see in the world. Why so much injustice? Why so much violence? Why so much this? Why this? So Isvara should be only the good and not the bad. No, Isvara produces the field and gives the Jiva the possibility to go for the good and for the bad, and for any kind of combination of the two. So that's the play. In general, Isvara can be taught as an intelligence that creates and sustains the creation, as well as creation itself. Isvara is also the manifest universe. It is the physical aspect, it is the intelligence that counts, it is the material cause, it's the intelligent cause, it is the energetic cause. It just appears like that with all the laws that are necessary to govern this universe, this order so intelligently designed. So a common example, as we know, is the spider, because a spider is both the intelligence that creates it, and it's also the material source. The material source comes from the spider itself. It does not borrow the raw material from another source. So likewise, so the universe is created out of Isvara, and Isvara does not borrow the raw material. It's out of this Tattva. It produces the tamas, and the tamas is going to produce all those physical material aspects that allow this universe to be projected, to be created. So the substance, it creates the web as well, the substance of the web itself. However, unlike the spider that can detach itself from the web, Isvara is never separate from the web of creation. That's very nice as well. We know that the spider creates everything out of itself, and then it sees a fly somewhere, and then it says, no, let me go out there. I'm going to have my lunch from some other place. It can detach from its creation, and it can come back and connect again to its creation. So, but in the case of Isvara can never detach from its creation. It's just building to the creation. That's why we can say that everything is Isvara.
Can you say everything's at Isvara, including the dharmic and adharmic?
Yes, everything. After all, everything is Isvara. Yeah.
So, but the jiva has a choice to choose between adharmic and.
Yeah, you see, we have three factors. We have Isvara, Jivas, and the field called Jagat. Okay, so when we see a Jiva acting in an Adamic way, okay, we can say everything is Isvara at play, but Isvara is not a doer of actions. Okay, so Isvara is free from that, because Isvara is the intelligence that allows the playground to be projected so that Jivas can work their karma. Okay, so Isvara is free from that problem. It cannot be blamed once we define Isvara as the intelligent cause of Sattva. But in order to manifest the playground, it needs to the inclusions of Rajas and Tamas. In the Rajas and Tamas, it's going to build not only the physical material universe, okay, the Dharma, the field of action, but it's also going to be building. It's in building the construction of the subtle body of the Jivas. So whatsoever Jiva does, it's his karma. He's going to have to deal with that karma. It goes into his account. Ishvara is completely free of karma because he's not a karta. He does not do any action. Consciousness does not do any action. And Ishvara does not do any action. Ishvara does not have vasanas. Ishvara does not have karma. Ishvara does not deal with any results of karma. All of that is designated to the jivas, okay, which is one of the three factors of the manifest. So the jivas are the one, the experiencing, the doers entity, the ones that interact with the field and get to experience and know and keep responding to whatsoever life comes to them. Okay, Ishvara is all completely free from all of that. Okay, it's the sattva. It's produced through the, the inclusions of rajas and tamas. It produced the physical material field in which these jivas can interact and work their karmas. So Ishvara is everything. Okay, but Ishvara is not a jiva. A jiva is not a Ishvara. You understand? Jiva is integral part of Ishvara, and Jiva has a certain relationship with Ishvara, because if we look at Ishvara as the macrocosm causal body, you know, the macrocosm body of vasanas, these vasanas, they go to every individual in following these accounts that are just perfectly, you know. Ishvara makes no mistake in that sense. So if you do something absolutely adharmic, there is no chance that by mistake somebody next to you who is a total moral and dharmic person is going to get that result, or that results of karma is going to be deposited on the account of somebody else. Okay? So it's all very, very precisely. It's a system, intelligent system. This is the karmic laws that control this system, okay? And these karmas, they only apply to the human jivas, because only the human jivas, they own their own decisions, their own choice, their own actions, and they own the results of actions, and so on, okay? So everything is Ishvara. It's Ishvara at play, but the jiva, you know, is like, there is these two orders of reality. One is such as Mithya. In Mithya, we see Mithya as Ishvara, you know, in these three aspects: the intelligence cause, the energetic cause, and the material cause. But in this order of reality called Mithya or Ishvara, there are some, or Mithya or Maya, there are some sub-orders of reality. And these sub-orders of reality is Ishvara, Jiva, and Jagat, okay? So there are three sub-orders of this reality called Maya, Mithya, Maya. Everything is Ishvara, but Ishvara is not a doer, okay? So always depends on the angle, the perspective we look at things.
Just
Go ahead.
sorry. Sorry, yeah, I just wanted to ask, but you know, the stuff that sort of comes from the causal body, that's sort of, you know, some of that is the results of your actions, but some of it is just, you know, it's just, I don't know, stuff that you don't always want. It's not always good for you. It's stuff you want to get rid of, but sometimes it keeps coming up. So how that feels like it's maybe more directed at you without your control, you know, understand, you know, right, if I'm rude to somebody, then they might take offense at that. That's like a direct action. But then there's also the stuff that, you know, maybe you don't want, that you know keeps coming back, or I don't know. Yeah. It seems that that's sort of a bit more, you know, put upon you.
Same. So what is your question in that case? So we have all these vasanas. We all operate by our vasanas. There are some vasanas that are positive vasanas, okay? They are dharma vasanas. They are sattvic vasanas. vasana. They are vasanas that are conducive to self-purification or self-knowledge and so on, and moksha. And some of these vasanas, we know they are obstacles. They prevent our development, our growth. Okay, so the question is how to filter those vasanas, how to prevent those vasanas that are not working for me, they are not really in harmony with my ultimate goal. How to prevent those vasanas to continue to operate me? Is that what you want to say?
Sort of, but more in line with what you were saying about Isvara not being a doer or, just operating the field, but like some of those vasanas are, they're more inherent, they're more kind of, they sort of color you in a certain way.
Yeah.
And as I say, they feel like they're sort of put upon you without your, I don't have any choice about that.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of a bit more of a, I don't know.
So what is your question in reference to Isvara? So you have Jiva and Isvara. The Isvara is the macrocosmic causal body, okay? We open, is the body of all vasanas, okay? And those vasanas, they distribute, so to speak, it goes, in some other lineage, they call the overall soul, to which all the individual souls are connected. This overall soul is called Isvara in some other language, okay? And all these individual souls, they are connected to the overall soul, okay? And the vasanas of each one of these individual souls, they get to the souls not by accident, because this is a very intelligently designed universe and creation. Every one of the jivas gets their own vasanas, okay? And the jiva, as we know, Ramji does not like to talk about past lives and future lives. And we understand his reasons, because the jiva, once it leaves the body, it leaves the body to become another jiva later on, and he does not remember his past experience on the previous births, okay? Therefore, what's the point? But from a larger perspective, many of the swamis in our tradition like to bring into the picture the fact that there is a soul, there is the journey of the soul. So why I was born with a certain temperament, with certain spiritual tendency, and not my brother, for example, you understand? So why me? We keep asking this, why me, why me, why me? There is a logic behind that, and this is logic is explained by karma. And the karma is not confined in one lifetime. The only way we can understand karma and explain karma is to opening up to previous and future lives. Because how many of our actions in this lifetime, they don't fructify? And we know that we have done so much, I have been working so much spiritually and physically, materially, but somehow I'm getting old and many of these actions are not fructifying, okay? That's why we have a system of teaching that explain those are your sanchitas karmas, okay? They are suspended, waiting to fructify when time is ripe. Okay, when time is right. And it's only Isvara, only the system. Another way to look at Isvara is to look at him as a living, self-conscious, perfect computer program system, computer system, okay? So this living computer system is going to keep producing, giving back to the souls, their own results of actions, their karmas. So if I do a lot of things, I have a lot of punya, but somehow I'm not really yet enjoying all this punya. I have credit of punya, but I'm still dealing with papa karmas from previous life conditions I had before, things I did before. So I have this punya and then I die. So where does this punya go? It goes into my next birth. And then when I come in my next birth, I have a lot of punya in my bank account, let's say. Oh, I'm born with a good luck, we can say. Huh? So when we look into a larger perspective, we understand that, I mean, it's not by accident that I was born this way. Nobody really consciously choose their parents, their program, their environment, their culture, okay? So we are just born into that, and then we go about living our lives, and we have to understand that, so why me, okay? Why me? I mean, everybody gets the life one deserves, everybody gets the physical body one deserves, everybody gets a beautiful intellect, or less beautiful and pure and intelligent intellect as we deserve. Everybody gets a relationship we deserve, everybody gets a spiritual teacher we deserve. We observe all of that. This is a meritorious kind of system that everybody gets what one deserves. And we work to gain better, deserving conditions in the future. So now, why me? Why I have this vasana? Why these vasanas are so tough for me to break away from them? Why? It's because they create very deep roots into my causal body, and they still keep coming and showing up in my conscious, my subtle body, you know, as a desire and the fear and the tendency, a predisposition, propensity to think, speak, and act in a certain way. You know? So those are the power of those vasanas, and those vasanas that are more deeply rooted, those are what we call the binding vasanas, the vasanas that are more difficult to break away from, you know, to dry, to discard, to filter, however we want to visualize it, you know. So how are we going to go about doing that? First, we should never victimize ourselves and say, why me? So Isvara is being unfair with me. No, Isvara is not being unfair with me, because we get what we deserve. We get the results of our actions. Understand? We get the results of our karmas. Oh, but it was not me. It was the guy before me, you know, the guy. So he did so many bad things or good things or whatever. Well, but it's the same soul stream, let's say a life stream, a soul, you know, the journey of a soul. Okay, that's why people who have some mystical experience, they get a feel, or they get an understanding that, oh, I was this and that in a previous life. I have had the opportunity to get some perspective or some insights or some look into what I was in one of these previous lives, you know. That has helped me to understand a lot of things, why I found myself in the family I was born, in the environment I was born, in the condition I was born. It was all for the purpose of facilitate my growth. You understand? I mean, if we are born with a lot of papa karma, we have to understand that you are in debt with the system. You are in debt with the system, and you need to pay your debt. Okay, so you're gonna have to deal with all these bad karmas and work through them, so that you can begin paying your debts. So it's the same way when we start spending out our credit card, maxing out the credit cards we have, and then we find ourselves with a lot of debt. So after it comes to a point that the only thing we want is to pay off our debts. You know? So we're gonna work hard, because I want to be debt free. Okay, I want to be free of debt. So the same way, so suffering is part of the process of the soul. The individual suffering serves the purpose to bring about spiritual growth, you know, personal growth, and so on. So the question why me should never be considered by a Vedantine, you know, because whatsoever is happening is perfect. It's just what I need, the ability to see Isvara as this living computer system, and that works in perfect order, making no mistake whatsoever. You see the system and see that everything, every prarabdha karma that comes into my life is what I need for my learning, okay, for my growth, to learn some things so that I can move on, I can work my karmas and so on. Does it make sense, Stephen?
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
We
Yeah.
believe in karma. We from Vedanta, we are Vedic people. We believe in karma. This is one of the most fundamental laws. If we throw away karma and then we live in a field, in a universe that is just a chaos. It's just a chance. Nothing follows any logic. You understand? You can be a terrible person. And yet you get a lot of good luck, and then you get beautiful people around you. You get a lot of money coming to you. I mean, we have to be careful not to make a confusion, because we see a lot of adharmic people, unfair people, bad people, insensitive people. We see them accumulating a lot of money, and a lot of time. We say, so this is not a fair system. Shwara is making a mistake here, because this guy is no good. He's unfair. He's a dumb. He's cruel. Okay, and he's enjoying himself with billions of dollars. Okay, he's destroying families, destroying other companies, destroying all kinds of people. Many millions of heads have to roll so that they can be billionaires, and why they enjoy all this good karma. So we need to understand that they are not really enjoying good karma. They may have been enjoying something called material punya, okay, material good results, but spiritually they are falling, but they are falling so bad, so bad, so bad. In the scriptures, in the Gita, Krishna says more than once, in all these violators, I'm going to keep them, giving them again and again terrible birth, new births, so that they have to go through all the suffering that they are causing to others and more. And these people who are billionaires, a lot of the times, they don't enjoy that material punya, because the material punya is coming to them, but their minds, which are the primary instrument to be an enjoyer, is already destroyed. There's so much negative feelings of resentment and guilt and conflicts and so on. The person is already good,
Yeah, no, I mean there are lots of people in this area who are extremely wealthy materialistically, but they don't necessarily look like they're happy with their lives. So yeah,
we see it over and over again. A lot of these very rich people. I mean, some people, they are rich but they are not famous, and some people want to be rich and famous, and they are rich and famous. I mean, look at the president of the United States. How can you imagine that guy is very happy? So he's rich and he's famous.
Yeah,
he's the most powerful person. So we see people being rich and famous commit suicidal, often, or getting totally going down the drain with drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
So isn't the teaching of Advaita Vedanta help us escape our karma by understanding that we're really not that jiva, we are consciousness, and therefore we can observe all the stuff that's happening in the karmic world, in the world of the jiva, and have understanding that this is governed by Isvara. But basically, when we understand through the Advaita teachings and knowledge,
it's 8 o'clock.
We are no longer part of, that we really, when we recognize we are consciousness, we don't have the same effect of the karmic influence on or the karmic results may still occur, but our reaction and action in regards to the karma that's happening.
Yeah, the karma does not affect you.
Becoming different to it, because we realize we are not that. We are we truly consciousness. Isn't isn't this the purpose of the Advaita teaching?
Yeah.
To help us.
Yeah, this is the ultimate purpose of Vedanta. Vedanta is divided in two segments, basically. I mean, depends on how we look at it. But basically, there are a few different segments. The first one is what we call Karma Yoga. And why Karma Yoga is important? Because Karma Yoga serves the purpose to prepare the mind for a later stage that's called Jnana Yoga. Okay? So
Yes, and that. Yes, I know that.
Yeah, what you are referring to is the Jnana Yoga, is the ultimate teachings of Vedanta. You are consciousness, you do not do any action, and the karma does not exist in reality. This is all projection, and so on. So you are free. So if someone understands that message right away, one does not need to go through those two other segments of Vedanta. One is Karma Yoga and the other is Upasana Yoga. We are talking about Karma Yoga, we are talking about Upasana Yoga, okay, meditation, and then we are talking about Jnana Yoga. And what is Jnana Yoga in Vedanta? Is to start, contemplate, reflect, and assimilation of the teachings of the Upanishads. That's the Jnana Yoga. No? It's Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Vedanta in its purity is Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana, the Jnana Yoga aspect of Vedanta. But we use Karma Yoga as a preparatory stage for the mind to gain and retain that self-knowledge.
So basically, this whole understanding of the Mayic world under the governance of Isvara is because the existential dilemma for people who understand themselves to be jivas is they're always trying to manipulate the reality because they don't like it, or there's some problem with it. They like it or they don't like it. And therefore, they're always trying to manipulate it in trying to pray to Isvara to change their karmic results because they want to have a different manifestation happening in front of them.
Yeah.
If they gain any understanding through Advaita Vedanta, these things become inconsequential.
Irrelevant.
Irrelevant.
Yeah.
And so I think, for most people, this is the existential dilemma. And I think the whole problem is we believe that Jiva is the reality.
Yeah.
Where it's not the reality. I see in Advaita Vedanta, for me, the dividing point is understanding that reality is that which never changes, period.
Totally. Yeah.
And if you don't buy into that at some point, you'll never, ever escape that suffering.
Yeah.
Comes with the world of Isvara and the Jiva and all the gunas playing out.
Yeah. If we have that knowledge always present in our mind, always good and available. I mean, I am that which never change to any of this experience, and then we are free. You understand? Freedom is to have that knowledge all the time available in our minds.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
I mean, James is talking about Isvara, that having a personal God. I wouldn't mind if you can elaborate on this notion of personal God. If you're a Vedantist, why? Because I feel like, the study of Vedanta, it's not just Vedanta. I really observe in myself, I've become very a-religious. I'm really very, and I don't even particularly want to describe myself as a spiritual person anymore either. And but James talks about the importance of having a personal deity or God. I don't know what word he used there. Is that personal deity or maybe could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I would say that for us Westerns, it's a little bit more difficult to get into a personal deity, because it's not inbuilt in our culture. In in the Vedic culture there in India, everybody lives, they breathe, they walk around that kind of, it's the fabric of the societies. There is all these gods, you know, and the gods, they're different names or representations of Isvara. You know, Isvara is the Lord appearing with all these different deities, you know. So, but in our culture, it's a little bit more difficult to get into that. You understand? Because we were not born into that Vedic culture. But it's important that we get to understand what is Jiva and what is Isvara, what is the field, Jagat, and the relationship between Jiva and Isvara. Okay? So this, which is the essence of Kama Yoga. You say Kama Yoga is knowledge yoga, truly, okay? As you understood, it's knowledge yoga. It's understanding Mithya, understanding this apparent order of reality, and these three factors, Isvara, Jiva, and Jagat, and the relationship between these three factors, and to understand that consciousness is the substratum of these three factors in the manifest, okay? The relationship between consciousness and Isvara, Jiva, and Jagat. It needs to be understood as well. So why? Because understanding Mithya, bringing back God into the equation, because we have thrown away God. Most of us, we are anti-religious people, you know, and we are not Vedic people in the sense that we are familiar with all those religious Vedic rituals and deities and so on. But the other aspect of Kama Yoga or the Gita is the aspect which is the pure knowledge that makes total sense in respect to this relationship between the Isvara, Jiva, and the world. And this is what needs to be understood very, very clearly, you know. So I mean to say we don't need to become Indians and start having Oms and all these signs of different symbols of the self. But we need to understand clearly this relationship between Isvara, Jiva, and the field of action, you know, and the laws governing our experience. Why? Because we want to live a happy life, and we want to live a life that naturally prepares the mind for moksha, which is the ultimate goal that we have in mind. So I don't necessarily would say that we need a personal deity, but a personal deity would not hurt, it would help, but it's not easily accessible for most Westerners, you understand? Because it's not part of our culture. Ramji has a closer relationship with the Indian culture because he stayed many years living there. He got a flavor to it, you understand? But we cannot ask that from most of us because we were born in materialistic societies, and then the only religion they present to us was sort of different aspects of Christianity, you know. And with time we understood that there was not much there that made sense. So, and then we walked away from all of that and say religious is just, you know, something childish. So, but understanding Isvara, I mean, bringing back God into the equation without falling into those old patterns of those childish kind of religious concepts, you know, is called to become a Kama Yogi. Understand Isvara, the relationship between Jiva and Isvara, and the laws in the field, especially the psychological and the moral laws, ethical laws, so that I can live a happy life as a Jiva, knowing that the Jiva is not really real. The only reality is consciousness. But you know what? After all, moksha and freedom and self-knowledge is for the Jiva, because consciousness have no problem with knowledge and ignorance. Knowledge and ignorance belongs to this other order of reality called Mithya. Raja. Satya is free from all of this, what we are in our essential nature. So who needs this freedom? It's the Jiva. So therefore, the Jiva needs to bring back God into the equation, understand the relationship between Jiva and Ishvara and Jagat as a means to prepare, purify the mind, and then gain this self-knowledge that can be permanently retained and gradually bring about what we call moksha, this sense of freedom and limitlessness and so on. Okay, so we did not make much progress, but we are getting there. The last topic here is like in most of our scriptures, there is always a topic about the benefits of self-knowledge. So, but now we're going to talk about the Jiva, this reflection of the self in the subtle body, as we have seen before, this reflection of the self in the subtle body, which ignorantly identifies bodies, especially with the physical body. We have this huge identification with our physical body. If we feel like, I mean, if the physical body dies, I will die. Now, if I'm gonna be out of existence here, my life is over. So that is the deeply ingrained identification we have with the physical body. Yeah? So this reflection of consciousness on the subtle body, this individual, this Jiva, ignorantly identifies with the bodies, is called Jiva. The Jiva, without proper inquiry, thinks itself to be different from Ishvara. So the Jiva, outside of this context of the Vedic teachings, without what is a proper inquiry? A proper inquiry is you start investigating, I mean, your life, okay? You start connecting the dots between what you want and your actions and results and many other dots you start connect, and you start questioning your own existence, your own identity. What am I? Who am I? And so on. So the Jiva, without a proper investigation, which usually investigation, it culminates with the introduction to the scriptural knowledge revealed by Ishvara, the Lord. Okay? So with Jiva, without this punya karma that brings about this inquiry into the nature of the Jiva, it thinks itself to be different and apart from the manifest. It thinks that I and the world exist. There are two factors in existence, I and the world. That's how most Jivas, the ones deprived of this knowledge, deprived of this investigation, they ignorantly we feel to be apart, separate, and different from the creation. You remember that Ishvara is also the manifest. It is also the spider net. It is the intelligent cause, it's material cause, and it is the net itself. Okay? So this is ignorance. Essentially, the Jiva is a conscious, embodied being. But since the body and the mind are unconscious, matter. So, okay. So essentially, the Jiva is a conscious being, and we say that the consciousness of the being is embodied. So, but this is not really an accurate statement, because the Jiva, as we said, is reflected consciousness. Okay, so the Jiva is this reflection on the subtle body, but this reflection of the subtle body only can work its karmas when it is anchored or associated with the physical body. So the Jiva, after all, it needs the three bodies to be, into place. Because the subtle body of the Jiva, it survives the death of the physical body. But once the subtle body detaches from the physical body, it no longer can work its karma, okay? Because it does not have the physical body. It can project some of the contents of its vasanas, of its mind, can project, but it cannot really interact with the field, that is presented by Ishvara in order to process karma and to grow. So this subtle body, it needs to be attached to the physical body. In fact, the subtle body, it pervades and lives the physical body. The physical body is alive only when the subtle body is pervading the physical body, okay, with its pranas and so on. So the Jiva is a conscious embodied being, okay? So the Jiva it depends of this association with the physical body to come into place. But it survives the dissociation with the physical body. But it remains in another stage as its vasanas, okay? The Jiva, this embodied is just its vasanas. So in order to be a doer and experience and a knower of new experience, of a new interaction, it needs the association. Essentially, the Jiva is a conscious being associated with the physical body. But since the body and the mind are unconscious, so what it means to say? It means that the subtle body is inert matter, it's unconscious. The physical body is inert matter, it's unconscious. How can this be? Okay? It is because the subtle body can reflect consciousness from the self. So what I mentioned half an hour ago. So the Jiva exists apart from its matter energy aspect. What is the inert aspect of my existence as a Jiva? It's my physical body. I depend on the physical body to exist as a Jiva, and my subtle body. But my physical body and my subtle body are just inert matter. And if we have any doubt, go and see somebody who just died. Okay? You'll see the physical body. Once the subtle body is dissociated from the physical body is just matter in decomposition. Okay? And the mind as well, the mind shines on its own, even without a physical body. We call it the Tejaza. Tejaza is the shining one. Is the content of one's mind can shine and even produce the dream state, for example, you know. So the shining entity called the Jiva, or in that case, the subtle body, okay, it is still, although it's very subtle, it is but inert matter, okay? It's inert matter, but it's an inert matter that allows consciousness to shine on itself and produce that what we call the Jiva. So the Jiva is consciousness. The only reason we can trace consciousness, Jiva, as consciousness, the statement Tattvamasi, Jiva Atma is Paramatma, is because we share the same principle called consciousness. Okay? Jiva is consciousness, but it depends on the subtle body so that this consciousness can be reflected. So the problem is that Jiva mistakenly get attached to the subtle body and the physical body and believe that is the subtle body and the physical body. That's called ignorance. The moment that the Jiva understand that I'm not the two bodies, I'm a reflection of pure, limitless consciousness, and my nature is pure, limitless consciousness. And if tomorrow I don't have this subtle body and this physical body, I'm going to be blessing all other physical bodies and subtle body. Actually, I will be blessing all other subtle bodies, and all these subtle bodies are going to be blessing their own physical bodies, and everyone is going to shine and move and dance, okay, due to myself, consciousness alone, okay? So this is self-knowledge, the understanding of my true, free, independent nature. So it is because the subtle body can reflect consciousness from the self, similar to the way the moon reflects the light coming from the sun and so on. The reflection of consciousness makes it possible for the ego, an unconscious thought of individuality and ownership, to claim the body and the subtle body, the physical body, as myself. Big mistake we make, creating the apparent individual. The reflection of the self, no, which is pure, limitless consciousness becomes what we call the ego. So the body, the mind and the body, the jiva, are just mithya. It's an apparent reality. So that's the bottom line for the pure, the poor jivas under the spell of ignorance. Ishvara is the self in association with Maya. The jiva is the self in association with ignorance. What is ignorance? Ignorance is rajas and tamas. Okay? Rajas is going to project. It's going to project the snake in the rope. No, we're going to see a snake. And rajas and tamas is going to how to say? Word in English.
Veil.
Veil, yeah. It's going to unveil. It's going to
Conceal.
conceal. Yeah, conceal was the word I was looking. So tamas is going to conceal reality from us. Rajas is going to project something. We misapprehend reality as it is, and we apprehend something which is our projection, which is a byproduct of our misapprehension. So that's the whole game of rajas and tamas, or ragas and divessions, you know, concealing and project, concealing and projection. No, sorry, Vikshepa and help me with the sun. Avarana and Vikshepa. That's the whole play of Avarana and Vikshepa. Vikshepa projects something. I mean, some people are going to say that first Avarana conceals. Because we don't understand what's going on, we project something on reality. Okay? So Avarana conceals, Vikshepa projects. From other angle, we may see that Vikshepa projects, and by project, it conceals what it is. We project the snake on the rope, and then that project is going to conceal the clear apprehension of the rope as a rope. Okay. Owing to the difference in the limiting adjunct, mind and ignorance respectively, it is falsely concluded that there is actually an actual difference between Ishvara and Jiva. Okay. So Ishvara is the self in association with Maya, Jiva is the self in association with ignorance. Ishvara is the self in association with Sattva, better said, and Jiva is the self in association with the three energies, because we have some good Sattva as well. This good Sattva allows us to have an intelligence that can work through this concealing power of Rajas and projecting power of concealing power of Tamas and projecting power of Rajas, and find a way out of ignorance. It is falsely concluded that there is actual difference between Ishvara and Jiva. There is no difference between Ishvara and Jiva. And if we look at this statement as Ishvara 2, we know that Ishvara 2 and Jiva, they are two aspects of Maya, okay? Because Maya produces Jiva and Ishvara in the world. So there is no separation. Although we know that Jiva is not Ishvara and Ishvara is not a Jiva, they are not synonymous, but they exist. They exist not separate from Maya, which is not separate from consciousness, since everything is not apart from consciousness. So it goes here, there is a commentary about a upadi, a limiting adjunct. Is something that superimposes its attributes into the self, which has no attributes. A good illustration is water. When we have a water in a green glass, for example, water is going to appear to be green. If we put the water in a blue glass, the water is going to appear to be blue. Okay, so water in association with the glass is going to take the appearance of something that belongs to the glass, right? It's going to be looking like green or blue, this analogy. But in truth, the water is colorless, as we know. Color, water has no color unless it's really very dirty water, as we sometimes find, yeah? Especially in places like India. Otherwise, water is colorless, but it can take the properties of the color of certain glasses and appear as if they have different glasses. In the same way, when the self is in association with the limiting adjunct of Maya, okay? Maya means the three gunas. It appears to be either Isvara, Jiva, Jagata, okay? Likewise, the same way water appears to have different attributes due to the adjunct called the glass, different colors of glass, consciousness in association with the three aspects of Maya, meaning to say Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, produce Ishvara and Jiva and Jagat. So those are upadis for the self, so to speak, in this teaching of the upadis. Consciousness is formless. It does not do anything, as we know. It does not have any attributes, but it appears as these acting jivas. It appears as all these different names and forms of different inert objects, all of them defined by attributes and qualities and properties and consciousness, that which we are now a fundamental essential nature, is absolutely free and independent of every one of those upadis.
What is the definition of upaji?
Upadi is something that takes or borrows, naturally borrows something else, and then appears as having.
Yeah.
So, for example, our intellect, our
Say that again.
You rather study on Monday or Tuesday?
Okay, I muted Stephen. So we have consciousness, and we have our human intellect, so our mental, intelligent faculty, So the intellect is very, very close to consciousness, and it's very close to consciousness. Okay, so we have our conscious existence from consciousness, but of course that this intellect is so close to consciousness that consciousness appears as taking the attributes of the intellect, and then consciousness identifies with the intellect. So that which we are as consciousness identifies with the upadi of consciousness, which is the intellect. So to use a more simple analogy, so we have electrical currency, running through every house. If it goes through the walls and goes through the wires and then goes through a lamp, and then it produces light. So we have the electrical power producing light. So light is the electrical bulb, in that case, the filament and so on, is a upadi for electrical power. So if this electrical power loses that bulb, the bulb pops or anything, it's totally free and independent. Its existence is unaffected, okay? But if this electrical power identifies with the bulb, okay, and then it's going to be identified with upadi, something by which it was just expressed itself as light, okay? So the most traditional analogy of the Vedanta presents the metaphor of a crystal and a rose, a red rose. When we have a crystal in our hands, and we have a red rose. We are not aware of this red rose. Somebody present the crystal for you here, but there is a red rose nearby, and then you look at the clear, colorless crystal, transparent crystal, and you think that you got a red rose. Okay, you are really sure that you get a red rose. So the redness of the crystal clear, crystal clear crystal, you know, is borrowed by the redness of the rose. Okay, so in that case, the redness of the rose is borrowing. It's working as a upadi, you know.
I'd never heard that Sanskrit term before, so I was just kind of trying to figure out.
Yeah, you will find it many times as you do your work with Vedanta. It's very, all the texts they go through the upadis. We just I don't remember if we did upadis before in this Tattva Bodha. So the jiva is an upadi for consciousness. Okay, consciousness, it somehow appears as the jiva, but consciousness in truth is not really dependent of the jiva. So let me see if what more they say here. So in the case of the water and the glass are separate objects that exist independent of each other, the analogy of the water and the glass. But in the case of Ishvara, it's different. Jiva, but this does not apply in the case of Ishvara, Jiva, and the self. Both Ishvara and Jiva are mithya, which is non-separate from and dependent on the self, Satya. And since Ishvara and Jiva are mithya, their association with the self is also mithya. There is no actual association, only the appearance of one. Okay? So again, everything boils down, everything resolves in consciousness as consciousness, and then Ishvara and Jiva appears as upadis of consciousness due to its close association, its close proximity. Okay? Close proximity, because nothing is separate from consciousness itself. Everything is there, not separate from consciousness. But consciousness is free. Everything that happens in mithyas, you know, like Krishna says in the Gita, he says, all of that is but me, but I'm not in any of that. I'm none of any of these things in mithya, you know. But all of the things just me alone, because the only reality is me. So Ishvara and Jiva are mithya. Their association with the self is also mithya. It means to say it's an appearance association. That's what it means. There is no actual association. There is only an appearance of association between Ishvara, Jiva, and the self. Samsara, the continuous suffering caused by this identification with the body, the physical body and the subtle body, persists as long as this incorrect conclusion remains. Therefore, the conclusion of difference between Jiva and Ishvara and the self is not to be accepted. Okay, so we need to work this understanding in our minds until we resolve the Jiva into Ishvara and the Ishvara into consciousness alone. That's the whole way back, you know. We need to resolve. That's why we present Karma Yoga as well. Karma Yoga helps us to resolve our sense of identity in Ishvara in a preliminary stage, and then we resolve Ishvara as well into consciousness. Everything resolves itself into consciousness. That's the conclusion, the final conclusion that that Vedanta helps us to. Okay. Suffering persists until the non-difference of Jiva and Ishvara is comprehended. And in other words, until the truth of non-duality is clear. Understand what the self is, why you are the self, and why the individual, the creator, and the creation are you, the self. You are free from Ishvara, Jiva, and the world. This is freedom. But how can this be done? The concluding argument is now given. So the next argument is, how can there be no difference between Jiva and Ishvara? That is the next topic here. So shall we go on, or we want to do some Q&A, some conversation, or we carry on a little bit more? Oh, we had enough for today. I began running my voice yesterday. I had such a long session with the people in Brazil, and I have a little cold these days. So what do we want to do?
Are you planning to wrap up at 9 o'clock?
Huh?
Are you planning to finish at 9? I mean, here it's in 30 more minutes.
It's up to you. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm a bit tired, but I'm with you. So how can there be no difference between the Jiva and the Ishvara? So my first question, so we want to stop now, or shall we continue a little longer? Are we getting tired? Because sometimes going for over an hour on these topics, it's a little bit tiring, you know? That's why sometimes Q&A lightens up a little bit the satsang, the session.
Yeah, I got Q&A, which sounds good to me. So
Yeah. So you have some contribution, Dave?
well, I'm just kind of your last question is just coming back to the difference between Isvara and Jiva, and yet I feel like that's where we started.
Yeah.
And so you just explained all this, and so I guess I don't understand why the loop back to at this point.
Yeah, because I took several diversions in the beginning, which was not in the text, most probably, you know. And this one is bring us back to the very famous statement of the Upanishads, which is Tattva. The Jiva is Ishvara. We have to understand that Ishvara in the scriptures, they often refer to Ishvara, the creator, but in many times it also refers to Ishvara as Brahman, as pure limitless consciousness, okay, or unmanifest. So in this case, this statement, how can there be no difference between the Jiva and Ishvara? Ishvara here, it refers to the unmanifest Brahman, okay, the substratum of the Lord Ishvara, the Jiva, and Jagat. So this is the ultimate conclusion or result of all the inquiries of Vedanta, is to come to this, to equate the identity between Ishvara, between Jiva and pure limitless consciousness, or Brahman or Ishvara. Ishvara is often used for both, because fundamentally Ishvara 2, Ishvara 1, and they are so intimately close together. It's reflected in Sattva and then produce Ishvara. Ishvara is Ishvara 1 colored by Sattva, you know, the aspect of Maya colored by Sattva, and then produce this active aspect of Ishvara 1, which we call Ishvara 2. Ramji came up with this distinction, Ishvara 1 and Ishvara 2, so because of the fact that the scriptures again and again talk about Ishvara 1, Ishvara 2, using the same words, and we need to see the context to understand which Ishvara is the scripture, the verse is referring to. So the great statement, you are that, reveals the identity between the Jiva and Ishvara. This is the ultimate statement, the ultimate declaration of the Vedanta. This identity is not obvious because the Jiva has limited knowledge and power and is possessed of an ego, while Ishvara has all knowledge and power and is devoid as an ego. It's devoid of an ego. Now we refer to Ishvara as all power, and we know that Ishvara is all power, all knowledge, omnipresent. Once it associates with Maya, and then it becomes Ishvara, the all-knowing, living, conscious being, you know. This identity between Jiva and Ishvara, we can imply Ishvara 1, Ishvara 2, is a little bit difficult to be accepted because Jiva has very limited knowledge and Ishvara is all-knowing once it associates with Maya. So how can I identify myself or equate myself with Ishvara, if I have so little knowledge and I appear to be limited by what I know, by by time, by space, by every mean, I seems to be limited. And consciousness and Ishvara is unlimited, no? As we say, it's ananta. So how can I equate myself to Ishvara? Huh? That is the difficulty. That is the difficulty we have in accepting this statement, this declaration of the Upanishads. Ishvara has all knowledge and power. Ishvara has no ego. Ishvara is not a jiva. Ishvara has no karma. Huh? Ishvara has nothing of any of these limiting uh, attributes that happens to the jiva. So how can there be no difference between the two when they have different qualities? So this is how this statement "you are that" is understood. The literal meaning of the word "you" is the jiva, who owing to ignorance identified with the gross and subtle body. So the jiva is not the gross and subtle body. The jiva is Ishvara 1, 2. It is this principle, manifest as pure sattva, pure knowledge, which unmanifest, it is just pure limitless consciousness, or Brahman. So I'm a bit tired. I don't want to go much into this topic right now. My throat is hurting a little bit, and I want to get to the states in good shape. And there is no difference between the jiva and Brahman and Jivatma and Paramatma, as we know. The whole purpose of the Vedanta is to bring us back to the understanding and acceptance of the fact that the Jivatma is Paramatma, the Tattvamasi. And we can do that only to the extent that we understand that the jiva is not it is physical body. The jiva, it's not, it is mind with its notions, with its ideas, its story. In other words, the jiva is not the body-mind construct. The jiva is something else. The jiva is this consciousness which reflects in the body-mind construct to bring about this living conscious creature called the jiva, which once identified with the attributes of this construct, it becomes bound to time, space, and feels limited and so on. But once it understands its true fundamental nature as consciousness, and then it accepts and owns and begins enjoying this declaration of the Upanishad that says, Jivatma is in truth Paramatma, Tattvamasi. This is the goal of Vedanta, is to make us understand that equation. Those are the Mahavakyas, the declarations of the Upanishads being the two most important. Aham Brahmasmi, eu sou Brahman, and the Jiva realize, I am Brahman, I am Paramatma. And the other is equating this apparent separation or distinction between Jivatma and Paramatma by saying Tattvamasi. You are that. You is the Jiva, and that is consciousness. Now, how can we say that you are that if the very statement denotes the fact that there are two factors in place, you and that? So you and that, how can you be that if you and that denotes duality? So we need to go through that, gradually understand that the you, the Upanishads refer to, is the substratum, is the essential nature of the Jiva, not Jiva identified with the body-mind construct. The Jiva, once we identify with this body-mind, we become just bound to time and space, and we lose a sense of limitlessness. So the only way we can understand that you are that is by understanding that there is only that. And Jiva is just an appearance in consciousness okay, due to this reflection of consciousness itself, and it's its own Maya, which is a talent, it's a power within consciousness to produce the universe with these jivas. So we need to understand, we need to trace back our consciousness to the only source of consciousness there is, which is Brahman, which is us. Okay? So that's the bottom line of it.
Okay, thank you.
So we are not separate, not different. There is not me and the self. There is only the self appearing with as me. You know? And I have to understand that this me is just misapprehension. It's a misunderstanding that in truth there is only consciousness. And this jiva is not really a jiva. The jiva understand once it breaks with this mistaking identification and understand, oh, I thought I was the jiva. I thought I was the bulb. Now I know I'm the power shining, making all bulbs shine. Now I know I'm the power. And if this bulb breaks down, I will be shining in all other bulbs. It's a very simple knowledge. Once it's really directly perceived, directly taken or apprehended, or internalized, you just say, "Oh, yes, of course, I am this power that shines in all living beings. I am going to lose this bulb here, this equipment. I'm going to continue shining all other equipments. It's the only freedom there is." And all the exercise, all the spiritual sadhanas and studies and contemplations and readings and videos and audios and meetings serves only the purpose to refine this understanding until we can really enjoy the fact with respect to what we really are. We are not this body-mind construct. We are the line through this body-mind construct. And this is an understanding that nobody can give it to us. A lot of people in the spiritual world thinks that some gurus can do it by touching or by transmitting some shakti or anything. This understanding it's a product of our own work, our own effort to understand that we need to become obsessed with those statements to the extent that we keep working and clearing all our doubts in respect to those declarations of the Upanishads. It's interesting to see how difficult it is for us to accept that. We have heard such statements for so long. Most of us, we have been in the spiritual world for decades.
Isn't there?
And we heard from many people that you are consciousness, there is only consciousness, and you're already free. We heard it from the neo-Advanced teachers, from everybody. But it's so difficult to really accept that without any doubt or suspiciousness.
Well, I think, Arlindo, the big problem is that even if we may come to totally understand it intellectually, and there's still that feeling in ourselves, but also, in in our fellow jivas, that when we understand this, there should be some huge transformation of our lives, or even our personalities, or the way we relate to the world. And this desire, this expectation, there'll be some kind of enormous experiential change you know, perpetual happiness, or, you know, like, I think this is the existential problem here, that
It
people
is.
go back time.
It may be a huge obstacle. Yeah.
And the thing is, and because meanwhile, as you say, the vasanas will keep arising, and the jiva has to still deal with the rising vasanas, whatever they might be. And at the same time, so people are always seeming, they're always making an evaluation. Well, the person could have achieved their enlightenment because they've still behaved this way or that way, or you might say about yourself, I haven't comprehended it because my life is still problematic in various ways. Whose audio is? Somebody's audio is very strange here.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand.
Anyway, so I see this is still the ongoing.
I don't know, Trudy, if it's coming. Can we make an experiment here? Dave, can you talk yourself now instead of Trudy to see?
I'm not sure I understand. I didn't pick up the question, Arlindo, because
Okay. No, because there was an interference. No, it's still happening. Even though Truth is not working, there is still that kind of noise. Are you listening? Are you hearing the noise?
Yeah, I think Mark's iPad was the only one that's on. I don't know whether he's half connected or disconnected.
Yeah.
Maybe it's his.
The first time that this.
No, I can hear you, and I can hear you, and I can hear the interference also. So I don't know if it's this iPad. I know our internet signal's not so strong here, so possibly. But there's no sound in the background. It's a quiet.
Okay, I'm going to mute you just to see if it could be.
Seems to be a bit better right now.
Okay, now I have muted Mark. Okay, let's give it a shot. Maybe it's coming from that connection with Mark. But you were saying that in order for this knowledge to be assimilated and retained with full certainty, with a doubtless knowledge or doubt-free knowledge and so on, the person has to have some mental qualities developed so that produce this clear understanding, this direct knowledge, as we say, when you really see it, you say, wow, yes. So we say that for this knowledge to happen, knowledge to occur and to be retained, some qualification have to be in place, because a lot of people in the spiritual world has this understanding, but due to lack of some qualifications, they feel like going on and off of this knowledge. So they have this knowledge, they feel free, they enjoy themselves, but then some vasanas come and they take over those vasanas, and the person again start feeling like, wow, I lost my clarity of knowledge, because now I'm being driven by stupid, ignorant vasanas. That is an indication that I may not be yet fully knowledgeable about my true nature. No? So it's an indication that we still have some qualification, some vasanas that needs to be neutralized by the means of further development of mental purity or mental refinement. And this mental refinement helps us to assimilate this knowledge on a deeper and deeper level, until this knowledge is what we call doubt-free, a doubtless knowledge. A doubtless knowledge, it takes some time, because these vasanas, they are going to be conflicting with this knowledge again and again, and it's going to create doubt in the mind of the person. So this Vedanta is not working, so the statement that I'm already free may not be an accurate statement of the jhanas and so on. So we need to keep going back to what going back to requalify until this knowledge. And this is a gradual process, but I can tell that what happens in this process and these vasanas, they are going to be deprived of nutrition because we don't identify with them. As we don't engage them, they start fading, they start melting, and they start visiting us less and less and less. This spiritual purification or spiritual growth or spiritual elevation, howsoever, it's a gradual process. There is no something like an instant moksha. If it happens, an instant moksha, it happened because someone has done lifetimes of good work. You understand? Even Ramana Maharaj, one of the most pure, beautiful souls of our recent history, yeah, he did 20 years of whatsoever he did in the caves, So it takes work. Self-knowledge is the beginning in a way, because afterwards we're going to have to deal with our ignorance vasanas that are going to be coming and challenging this certainty of knowledge in reference to what I am. I'm not my conditioning, I'm not my desire, I'm not my fears, I'm not my tendencies. But yet I don't want to be governed by all these ignorant vasanas because they are going to cause bad karma, conflicting karmas, and so on. You understand? So we don't want it either. It's not as important. This takes me to another statement that Ramji sometimes says, like, if you know what's knowledge, what's ignorance, I'm not my ignorance, and then you are free. Yet, but if you are free, but ignorance begins operating you. If you are free, if you know you're the self, but you're still acting and talking, I need this, I need that, and I want to take this from you, control and manipulate the field and so on. So you are free, but you are not really acting out in that manner of freedom from that stand of I am limitless consciousness and I don't need to control, manipulate, and do all these things, control my experience in simple language, So, so I know it's ignorance. Ignorance may come. I want ignorance. I know I'm not this Vasana. I'm not Papa. I'm not Punya Karma. I'm none of this, But if ignorance keeps coming, I have to keep discriminating it more attentively because I don't want to find myself in a situation called like the crazy wisdom gurus, that I know I'm the self, but I can go around behaving badly all over the place because I know I'm the self. Okay? So like some people said, so higher than enlightenment is Dharma, is good manners, is behaving in harmony with all other creatures, with all other beings, and in harmony with the laws of this manifest universe and so on. This is a gradual process that we all go through,
Well, could you, I understand that when Ramana fell sick with cancer in his arm, and he was quite profoundly ill, that the people in the ashram even debated whether he was enlightened or not because of his suffering. And do you want to talk about this? Because, there's a lot, in the community, a lot of people intellectually can arrive at the place where, well, I'm consciousness, and you understand it quite well. But then, as I say, the vasanas of the physical body can arrive, as in Ramana, his physical body, and he did suffer immensely, apparently.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I can say something about that because I was in a very, very interesting situation there in the ashram in Ramana. In Ramana ashram, the past years there is one guy that is said to be the enlightened one, the free guy. So most probably
it's 9 o'clock.
Mark knows him. He's a Brahmin that goes there and for about 2 weeks every year during the season, he gives talks there about Master said this, Master said that. So I went there, everybody was praising this guy big time, and they say, oh, he's a Vedanta guy. They were saying he's a Vedanta guy, he's self-realized, and he talks about the teachings of Ramana. So I went twice there, And very soon, once I got there, I start seeing his ignorance operating, you know. And a lot of ignorance mixed up with knowledge in his thoughts. The biggest of ignorance that came out of his mouth was when he started blaming the mind. He started blaming the mind, saying the mind is the source of suffering. The mind has to be destroyed, that, in that kind of language, you know, the destruction of the mind, because the mind can be so poisonous, that it can poison the master and give cancer to the master. So when I heard that, I say, whoa, this is big. So now he's associating the cancer of Ramana to the poison of the mind of the Ramana's devotees over the years. So Ramana, it's not different from Christ at the cross having to pay for the karma of all Christians, you know? It's not different. It's now is Ramana being there, sitting on in his bed, receiving all these visitors, and in the end, having a peaceful and purified, refined mind, and taking the mind of everyone and getting the cancer from these people, okay? So I went back and I reported that to Ramji, and Ramji said, wow, I can't believe that. But that is to illustrate the fact that not even that Brahman have understand of the basic laws governing Jiva's experience, which is called karma, understand? So if Ramana had that cancer, it means to say that there was some papa still in the system that had to manifest. And of course, it was not a result of things that he did in this lifetime, because he lived his lifetime as a sage. You know, he did almost nothing that could be condemned. But he had to deal with some karma from previous births. And these people, they could not deal with that because they were never taught the teachings of Isvara. The scriptural knowledge of Isvara was never taught to the people around Ramana. Ramana was teaching through silence. He was just infecting everybody's minds through his pure mind and turning the mind of everybody else into scientific mind. But he was not feeding those minds with the scriptural knowledge. Here and there, he was giving a little condensed forms of pure knowledge to people, you know, according to their level of development. And then most of the people got confused, like, how can the master get a cancer, you know? So this Brahmin came with the understanding that he got a cancer from the poison of the mind of his devotees. Therefore, the mind has to be destroyed, like we hear that very often propagate in the spiritual world.
So what's your take on it? Why did he get cancer?
Because it's obvious because of his karma. He deserved it.
Well, my take on it, his ignorance about food, eating all that sugary prasad. Sugar is strongly linked to cancer these days. You know, it's like, but you know, ignorance is, you know, almost.
But yes, how many people, I stayed 3 years with Papaji. Papaji was a junkie with sugar.
I know, exactly. I'm sure he was.
Yeah, and he did not die of cancer. Why Ramana, this poor soul, had to die of cancer, you know? Why me? The same question, why me? Why Ramana?
Well, Papaji died of diabetes. Same thing, it's from sugar.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sorry, but it's ignorance about food, you know? It's
possible. It's possible. Ramana has never claimed that he was Isvara, all-knowing. He just knew himself, and he had an incredible, beautiful mind, you know, that was affecting and shining on all other minds. So he was that kind of light to the world, but he was not claiming to have the knowledge about physics, chemistry, or nutrition, or anything, you know.
Well, I guess in the end, the physical body is, most people, at some point, the physical body is going to die. I mean, that's kind of seems to be an absolute an absolute thing, and people are deceived if they think otherwise, right?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah. And the yanis usually they don't have much attachment to the body. They know, we say that there is only a prarabdha karma for the yani. Yani does not produce any more sanchita and agami karma, but whatsoever karmas from the past are still in the system, they are going to keep manifesting. There is only prarabdha karma for yani, so he is not identified with his body mind. He's not identified with his karma, his life's situations as it unfolds. You understand? He just watched, he witnessed the play without any attachment. You remember the story of people in the ashram getting all freaked out because Ramana was going to die. They brought this Ayurvedic doctor who mixed a lot of spices and herbs and with mud, from the earth, the elements and soil, and mixed some fire and water, and put that to apply on his cancer. And Ramana was trying to say, no, don't break anybody. I mean, this body is just the elements. It has to go in any case. So what is the difference whether it goes on Monday or Tuesday or Friday, right? So they brought this doctor. The doctor put this medicine, Ayurvedic kind of porridge on his arm, and he looked at that and said, oh my God, mud over mud. Did you know this story?
I've heard those stories, but yeah, I also heard the story that his suffering was so profound that people debated in the ashram whether he was really enlightened or not.
Yes, but that is
their knowledge of his enlightenment on the lack of his suffering. And I find this kind of an interesting kind of, the fact that people assume that you're going to totally escape all kinds of suffering.
That's misconceptions, because we can see by the pictures that Ramana was in so much pain and suffering. There was tears coming through his eyes in the very end, so much pain. And people see like it's not possible. Why he's getting that, and why he's suffering? Why he was not? He should not be suffering. He should be beyond everything. This is all based on these weird ideas, these mystical ideas that people have around enlightenment. People have all these wrong notions that you were mentioned just 15 minutes ago that can become an impediment, an obstacle. Because as enlightenment, I know who I am, but I need the extra powers, I need this, I need to behave, all of that. I have to have my mind stable, always like that. I have to have this mental kind of samadhi all the time. So all of these are wrong notions about what moksha is. Moksha is not to be above pleasure and pain, literally, as an individual body-mind construct. You are above the pleasures of pain of life, but your physical construct is going to go through pleasure and pains of life, but you remain detached from those experiences because I'm not the body and I'm not the experience that happens through this body. It's exactly like Ramji says when you ask him, so how are you doing? He says, oh, again, don't ask me this question, please. I'm good when it's good and I'm good when it's bad. And it is a fact. Once you have this knowledge working for you, what happens to the body belongs to the body. What happens to the mind belongs to the mind. And I remain detached and free from what's happening here. But for the eyes of the people believe that Ramana was that body, that all curved body. People see Ramana as the body-mind, a shining, beautiful body-mind, but the body-mind. When the body-mind starts breaking down, and then people get confused. Oh, well, we thought that Ramana was that immortal principle. Ramana is the immortal principle, but the body-mind is not immortal.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Projection.
Thanks for articulating that reminder, because basically it's a reminder, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
To get lost in those confusions.
Yeah, and people keep looking to the yanis and trying to find something that does not match their ideas of enlightenment. Enlightenment is like the hard and fast knowledge in respect to your true nature, your true identity as consciousness alone. but then the personality of every yani is different, and the yani is going to act out different. I had a good conversation with Ramji recently. I met him in Spain, and then I was having lunch with him and Sundari. And Sundari was praising me, saying that, wow, people like when you teach, so you're a good teacher, and this and that. And then I told her and Ramji, well, I mean, I share my knowledge, but my knowledge is very small compared with the knowledge of Ramji, the Vedantic knowledge. Huh? I say my knowledge of the scriptures is small, very small compared to Ramji. And then Ramji looked at me and said, oh, but you have a better personality. Very interesting statement. It was in connection to the fact that people like the way I share the teachings. And he was saying, so people like you as a teacher because you have a better personality than me. And then I came back to him with another argument. I said, but what liberates people is knowledge, it's not personality. You can get someone very ignorant with a beautiful personality, and that person is not going to have a positive effect to remove people's self-ignorance. So what removes self-ignorance is knowledge. But the problem is that the people in contact with the teacher looks and sees the personality, body, mind, you know, and they trace the personality and gets mixed up. That's why it's very, very tricky to have students too close to you. Ramji is very transparent in the sense because before the cameras, he just exposed his jivahood naked, you know. He even exaggerates to make a point to people, okay? Because the moment that you let people come close to you, they are going to see certain things on the personality of the yani that they may not like because it's not a good personality. And then they discard this yani as a fake yani, okay? So that's why the best gurus, the most smart gurus, they don't allow people to come close to them, and they even do not speak, because if you speak, some of your flaws of your personality may transpire, you know, and then you say, no, I will just remain in silence, and I'm not going to get in trouble here, because anything I do may bring about result, you know. People are going to like me or not like me or something in between. So wrong notions about enlightenment. Okay? We end up staying long today, very long. So I did not finish, so we have to finish this Tattva Bodha, and the last topic is a very juicy one because it is the benefits of self-knowledge liberated while living, you know. And it's a little bit more juicy, but we did not get into that. So we'll see when we can get. I want to finish this Tattva Bodha. And I don't know when, but we'll see. Next weekend I will be in the United States. If I have the time and energy, we can try to do it. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaskar.
We'll be in touch.
Thank you, Arlinda.
Thank you. And Trudy, just for your knowledge, because you expressed interest to go to India, we have already filled about 10 or 11 spots. And
Okay.
the place there has room for about 15 to 20, depending on how many people are going to be couples sharing the room. Okay?
Right.
It's very limited. And outside of that Ayurvedic health center, there are only 2 hotels, because it's in the middle of a small town there on the seaside. There are 2 hotels, and I heard that they are expensive. Okay.
Okay. So that registration fee includes accommodation or just the registration?